All right, everyone, welcome back. This is Beneath a Helmet. This is episode 111 of season 4, episode 111. I'm your host, Arjuna George, former fire chief turned podcaster, author, and coach to the fire service. Today, I got a chance to sit down with a healthcare professional, longtime educator, also a volunteer firefighter, and the winner of the 2025 Darley Essay Competition, which is an awesome essay that we'll make sure is in the show notes for you to check out. Welcome to the show, Dr. Marc Wysocki.
It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired fire chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
So tell our listener today a little bit about who Marc is and what kind of brought you to the world you're in sports medicine and one aspect and training. And then what made you join the fire service as well as a volunteer?
Sure. So I've been an athletic trainer for 30 years. For people who don't know, an athletic trainer is a healthcare professional. I evaluate, treat, rehab injured athletes. Similar lines of PT, but just my education is more towards the athlete. I'm also, just as an athletic trainer, also have to be ready for emergency procedures, CPR, spine boarding, airways as well. So I can do anything from a simple cut to spine boarding, CPR, post-surgical rehab, post-concussion, get return to play as well. So I've been doing that my whole life. I tore my ACL my sophomore year in high school. My guidance counselor was my football coach and sent me to athletic training workshop in Boston and lit the fire from there and never looked back. So I was very lucky to find my calling early. Moving forward to the private high school I work at now, I had a head of school, a principal, that was really into community service and, saying that our school has to go beyond the bubble, meaning outside our campus. And that really got me interested. So at first I took an EMT course. I became part of our local ambulance service. Our ambulance service here is private. It's not part of the fire department. It does cover the largest geographical area in the state of Massachusetts. It covers 7 towns and helps assist another 3 to 4. What I mean by that is that our ambulance service is ALS, so other towns just have BLS. So if they need to intercept, we go out and help. So I was with the ambulance service for 12 years, and about 4 years in, I wanted to push myself further. So I joined the Sheffield Fire Department, and I have stayed with it since and moved up the ranks from firefighter to lieutenant to captain. To give you a little origin story of my essay, I was finishing my last year of earning my doctorate degree in athletic training, and I saw this pop up on my Instagram. And at that time, I was taking a psychology course for the injured athlete, and my brain had all the rust knocked off of it from research, so I knew how to put a paper together. So that part was kind of the easy throwing facts and figures now that I know how to do for the past 3 years. But obviously I needed to put my own personal interest into it as a first responder, as an EMT and firefighter. So I think it was just almost the perfect storm of blending this essay together and putting my thoughts and beliefs and, where we should be heading as firefighters.
Yeah, before we venture into some of the nuts and bolts around your essay and the work that you do in general, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what can we learn from sports medicine, sports therapy that the fire service could really embrace a little bit better than we are right now. What would be your top
Sure.
like 1, 2, or 3 items that were like, "Oof, man, if we could take this, we would be a whole nother element in the fire service."
Yeah. Yeah. Any first responders, I'm going to say, treat yourself like an athlete. You are like, I know the new term is tactical athlete.
Yep.
The nutrition, the recovery, and most of all, the sleep. I know that's a monster we've dealt with since day one of ever answering a call, and your cortisol levels, and um, trying not to be hooked on energy drinks and caffeine. But I know people, they need to do what they need to do to push through and, get through their shift. But I think the biggest thing is prevention. That's what I try to, just going back to where I work, I work with teenagers. So trying to teach themselves that they're not invincible is a tough task. I can just go out there and go.
Yeah.
And they start to learn when they get 17, 18, 19, like, oh, they are right. I should listen. But overall, I mean, just the recovery period, I think if I had to encapsulate it, is when you're off shift, really recovering from the sleep and the hydration and muscle soreness, and just taking care of yourself physically and then mentally as well is just as important. Just, you get ready for your next shift or your next call, whatever it may be. I think that, the recovery phase is huge in the long term.
Do you have any tips on recovery on what that could look like? Because I think recovery for some people could mean, a couple hours sitting on the couch watching TV. It could mean doing something that's actually benefit to your body. It could mean just doing another job is their mindset of recovery. So how would
Sure.
you suggest perfect recovery on your days off?
In a perfect world, um, obviously there's going to be some veg time. I'm not going to, deny that.
Yeah.
We all need just to unplug for a little while.
100%.
But I just wouldn't unplug with the 6-pack in front of me or whatever you want to drink. But, rehydrating your body. Even though you may not feel it, your body's been through a lot. Even though you may have had the Q word that no one likes to say overnight, but your body is still on alert. The cortisol levels are still up there. Getting proper sleep that following night, like shutting down the phone earlier, not having it in front of your face, the TV, so your body is recovering. Even if it's just going for a walk, doing some active stretching, rolling out, if you have a Theragun, a massage gun, just to help loosen your body up from what it's been doing, I think would be some ideal stuff that would really help you in the long term. But I think the first thing is trying to reestablish a good sleep pattern. I think would be the first thing.
Any thoughts on how it's different for volunteers versus careers who are on shift? You see any difference there in recovery?
Oh, I it for me it took longer to recover, like especially if I had a call in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and then we just go back to our work. I'm not gonna lie, I've had days fueled heavy by caffeine just because I had to go back to work or I had to get up in a couple hours and then go to work. But I made sure the following, once I'm done for the day, to take care of myself. To, like I said, active recovery, taking care of sore muscles, getting the good sleep, getting to bed early, keep myself hydrated, I think is the biggest thing. When I did the ambulance service, I did a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, and then I went to my high school job in the morning. So that next day, so it's been almost a 2-day recovery system when I did that. So once it got on in years, I noticed it more and more of like, I really need to, when it comes the end of my day after getting off the shift, I really need to take care of myself better. I think that's the biggest thing.
I think I see a shift happening where our mindset is not going just to operational preparedness, but recovery preparedness as well. Uh,
Just as important.
It is.
Yeah,
And I think we've ignored
absolutely.
that for many, many years, right? And now we're slowly starting to, all right, recovery is just as important as being ready to fight that structure fire, right?
Absolutely. And then when you get off shift, I'm just thinking of the younger firefighters not going right to the bar and,
Mhm. Mhm.
having, because I got 2 nights off. Well, now you got to recover from that as well. I'm not saying not go out and not have a good time, but, just being aware of, you're in a recovery debt when you get out of your shift.
Beautiful. Love it. So your essay, Behind the Mask, Uncovering the Root Causes of Mental Health Challenges in the Fire Service. Um, Pretty big scope there of the root causes. And I think there's so many things to dive into there. Before we dive into it, any surprises when you were writing this essay? Any surprises to you that are like, wow, I was not expecting to unravel this or uncover this?
I think one big one that stood out to me doing the research and is, I think definitely, COVID has helped push mental health up front even more. Not just first responders, but just I think overall. But the rates have not gone down for suicides, unfortunately, for first responders. They've actually, stayed or gone up.
Yep.
I think that was the
That
one
was
that really, took my breath away, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree. It's sad to see that every day on social media. Somebody else, either somebody you know or somebody just in the fire service, and it kind of hits you just as hard, right?
Yes, it's tough.
So your essay is all about sustainable leadership, boundaries, long-term well-being for firefighters. You talked about there in your essay about, the, you know, in the fire service, we all have the courage to run into burning buildings. But you also talk about some of the assumptions in the fire service that we need to challenge a little bit more. Any thoughts about those assumptions that we need to challenge a little bit more, and want to share that with listeners?
Yeah. So I think it's just more, obviously aiming more on the mental health aspect. Um, I've said this before. I think a good officer, his first 360 is when he comes into the firehouse. Is you know you don't need to know every little detail about your crew and every little, but just getting the overall of how people are doing, where they're at. Each person's at a different place. You know what's going on in their lives. Obviously, they don't leave it at the door. It weighs heavy on their mind. And I'm not asking the officer to be, a full time psychologist, but just knowing their crew. And because that can be an asset for you, but also if you have a crew member that's not there or, really struggling, that's a liability if you have a major call coming in and they're not there mentally to do their job, you know. So I think that's the first part of being a good officer and being open about this. On a side note, a few years ago, we had a multi-car, multi-fatality accident. And we had a couple of new firefighters on, and it took a while. I mean, it was early in the morning, and we were there. Well, it's the mid-afternoon, just because it was on a state road, so state police had to come out, reconstruct, and then medical examiner, and so we were obviously we were just traffic and manpower after a while, and so I could see the look. That was their first like big call. And I didn't say anything on the spot because there's a lot of people around, but I definitely reached out to them later. I go, hey, that was shitty. I go, that's not, our usual MVAs that we deal with. That was a very crappy call. And I'm just checking in on you. I think just, saying that, getting that in the open, like, say something, I think is the biggest one. Even though if you're in the firehouse with a bunch of people and you feel like, I can't, let down my guard, pulling them aside, just getting to know them like, hey, doesn't seem like you're okay. So that's good that I go, that's fine. Just don't bottle it up and let it cascade into something else. just letting them know we're here for you. We want to make things better. And I also, I have to say, in our county, if we have a fatality, we have a crisis team ready within 24 to 48 hours. And if we do have a fatality, we always have a debrief. We have a tactical debrief, like we go over the call, and then they step in, and then people speak, don't want to speak, they're there. So I think that's a great step forward our county took when we have that.
When you have these conversations with firefighters as an officer, what's their reaction or what's their response back to you? Most often, not in detail, but like, how do they respond to that normally?
I get that I'm okay, I'm fine. And luckily being there long enough, sometimes they're, I can tell, but sometimes I'll be a pain in the ass. I'll come check in on another day after that. And just to make sure, or I said, hey, you can, I know there's a lot of people around. You just want to call or text, me or one of the other officers. We just don't want you to deal with this alone. Okay.
There's still a sense of guardiness a little bit. Not
Yeah, there's always going to be that bravado that we're dealing with, that machoism,
Yeah.
heroism as well.
Right.
That's always going to be there.
Yeah, and I think it's just one thing that a lot of first responders, we just haven't been trained on how to be authentic and vulnerable and kind of share how we're actually feeling, right? So hopefully over the years that will kind of adjust and change for sure.
Definitely.
So once again, in your essay, you talk a lot about exposure trauma and stuff, but you also talk about there's other stuff outside of trauma that can affect firefighters. What conversations do you think in the fire service we need to have a little bit more to shed a light on some of those areas that are outside of trauma, such as moral injury, political stuff, behavioral issues, anything like that? There'll be some conversations that we're not having right now. We maybe need to start having.
Um, a couple things. One thing I think of is a part I wrote about is identity fusion.
Mhm.
Is, when your shift is over, not mentally hanging up your uniform, kind of keeping it on you like that's all I am. And that's a part of you. And, I also tie that into my athletes here at my high school. I go, you may not learn this now or down the, near college, but this sport that you love, it's a part of you. It's not you. I know that you don't really get it as a teenager.
Or as a
They'll come
firefighter.
back and thank me later. But I think that's a part of first responders. That's who I am. That's all I am. And I think working on that, like when the shift is over, working more on leaving it at the door. Obviously there's going to be stuff that sticks with you, conversations, calls. I'm not saying to shut that out, compartmentalize it. Excuse me. But and deal with that in healthy ways. But I think overall, that's just a part of us, and learning to grow in different ways, whether it be a partner, family member, member of a community doing something totally different away, hobbies, interests, sports, whatever it may be, just healthy outlets from our job, I think is the biggest thing. I think the also one is having healthy disagreements. Like you said, we're all different people. We come from different beliefs and backgrounds. And when there's downtime and we don't agree on, may not even be protocols, procedures, just other, I think that's a good thing. Just listening to each other, whether, politics, religion, if you talk about that, whatever it may be. I think just having respectful disagreements, because you still have to work together when the tones drop.
Sure, for sure. So identity fusion, yeah, what would be a better way to leave the job at work? Do you have any strategies that you do yourself or what you suggest to others of how to, because that is a very hard thing to do, is leave, especially well, volunteer or career, you're kind of thinking about fire 24/7. And how do
Yeah.
we combat that and kind of just adjust and turn into a mom, dad, brother, sister, partner, whatever that looks like?
Yeah. I have gotten myself into a good routine of exercise and meditation in the morning. Just kind of help myself reset and center myself. But that took years of experience and mistakes and bad choices. So, you know, I'm far from, having all the answers, but the only way you learn is by doing something wrong. You always did it right, you never learn. So, um, yeah, learning to, after on my end, go to a call and then you're going to walk right back in the house and you jacked up and, you know, it went really well and you fired up on it, or it was really bad and you just sitting with it. And, your family wants Mark or dad, and learning to shift like that when you have to come back in the house, or after a long shift, be a call person. That's tough. And that takes time. I think each person has to find their place of release, healthy place, I should say, of release. So they can, leave that at the door. Like I said, whether it be different hobbies, other groups of people, is just finding a healthy release.
Yeah, I think that's one of the toughest things that when I talk to firefighters is leaving the job at work
Yeah.
and transitioning to their next role as a partner or whatever that looks like. Um, yeah, that transition time is so critical. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, could be half an hour. Sometimes a drive home. I've kind of switched my gears of transitioning. Not that I'm in the fire service anymore, but between activities, I don't drive with a radio on anymore in the car. I drive with silence, and that is my transition time. And it's for some reason I just started doing that in the last like maybe a year or two, and it really has transformed my drive to town. 15 minutes is almost like a meditation in one aspect while I'm still driving, but it's quiet. There's not music. There's not voices going on. It's just me kind of thinking, right? So, yeah, those transition periods are very critical.
Absolutely.
You touched on it a little earlier about recovery and how important that was, but you also talk about recovery debt in your essay.
Mhm.
Just highlight what that is for people to understand a little bit deeper of recovery and what that truly means, that phrase.
Sure. So, you experience it in the call area as well, being on shift 24, 48 hours and guaranteed you're not going through your normal sleep cycles, eating cycles, whatever it may be. And you may feel okay, like, hey, I got through that, but your body is like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. Uh, my energy is on the 1% and you don't even know it. So, I mean, you ask a lot out of your body and your body does it, but it needs that pause, to recover from, the dehydration, the jacked up cortisol levels that you got throughout the time and you're on survival mode. And now you're heading back into the world and, you feel sluggish and worn down. You just want to sleep the whole next day. That's your body telling you like, hey, I got you through this. Now you need to help me on the other side as well.
That's a good way to see it. Yeah. Your body
Yeah,
helped you, and now it's your turn to repay your body, right?
absolutely.
What what would you recommend for kind of being in tune with your body and listening to your body in regards to what it needs? Do you have any thoughts there of what's a good habit or a practice to get into to, am I dehydrated? Am I tired? How does one do that?
Yeah, especially when it comes to the tired part, you know, you need to go to bed early, you go to bed early. And just when you go to bed, don't do it with the screen right in front of your face. Like shut it down. Put the phone down, put it away. Same with TV. You feel yourself starting to get tired, just yeah, try to keep the blue light away from you. Let your body start to get in that recovery mode. Um, doesn't mean the lights and pagers aren't going to go off 10 minutes later, but at least, you're working towards that good habit. I think when you're tired, dehydration, I know it's old as time, but if you feel thirsty, you're way down the dehydration trail already. That's kind of like the last mechanism, like your body's saying, hey, you need to fill me up a little bit. So keeping, steady. I mean, you don't need to keep the big 64-ounce Stanley by you clipped onto your belt the entire time. But I mean, if you're going to be on 24, 48-hour shift, keeping that steady, water, electrolytes nearby, I think it will help in the long run.
For the athletes that you work with, what do they do for hydration? Is it just water, or what do they add to their water for proper hydration? Or is it just, or is it Red Bull?
Celsius.
Gotcha. Yes, we are talking about dehydration.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. Like, I'm immortal. Yes. I need this. I'm like, you're 16, 17. You are full of testosterone and adrenaline. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
But no, when they are behaving, when they're hydrating, trying to think of the ones they use Propel, which is Gatorade. These are all in the water mixes. They usually use Liquid IV. Those are the two biggest ones I see my kids use a lot, but I'm glad they're using them, and more water-based than actual just the straight Gatorade, which obviously has a lot of sugar that they don't need right on the spot. I think those are the two biggest they use right off the bat. And then obviously the whole energy drink conversation's a whole different animal to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Awesome. Going back to your essay once again, you talk about operational effectiveness truly requires sometimes emotional suppression. So suppressing some of those feelings, thoughts that you're having. But in my view, you have to process those at some point. How would you suggest navigating, say, sort of like that car accident you were described earlier? You witnessed a terrible, terrible day. How would you recommend somebody deal with that process in the moment operationally? And then when and how should they deal with that personally, so it doesn't weigh them down and cause severe challenges down the road?
Yeah. I'll just go to that incident for a minute. I have to admit, operationally, we did very, very well. I mean, for multiple people, taking care of them, and the two vehicles we had to deal with. I mean, everyone did really well. And being an officer and other officers, breaking up into like little teams, we did really well. Like, everyone stayed on task. So no one kind of, just kind of got deer in the headlights at what was going on. They stayed on task. Even our young ones that I talked about, they did really well. They kind of just stayed focused. And then, asked whatever, we asked them to do, and they did it. So we're very fortunate on that call. And that always doesn't go that way. I get it. You get caught, you look at something like, what am I doing here? How am I going to help with this? And, that's, on the officers, if you see that, maybe if you can shift their task on this, if you can, depending on how many people you have, obviously, that'd be the ideal thing. If you can get them out of that spot, just so they're not a liability, or, they're kind of slowing the process down, and just have them do something else to help the incident move along. And I think that would be good as well. But like I said, after everything was done, and the cars, and fortunately the victims that passed had to stay on the spot because they had to do the whole reconstruct and medical examiner thing. I checking in with them, and I could see the 1,000-yard stare in them. Like, they were processing what's going on and what they did. Just having brief conversations, because there were way too many people around to, have that type of good conversation. But just having them just try to be here with me, you know, and, I said, hey, we're going to be doing XYZ next once, they're done out there. So, just want to have you ready with that, the stuff we need, and just try to give them a little task to let them stay here with me. And then afterwards, like I said, pull them aside and talk to them.
You think it's important to compartmentalize that emotional response during an incident? Or would it be healthier to process that during an incident?
Um, I think on the spot, um, just to kind of pack it away for a few minutes or half an hour, whatever it may be, just so we can complete the task. And then, as soon as we can in the area they're comfortable with, definitely let them have their space and talk about it, or not talk about it and say, hey, let me just sit and then I will get back to you. Like, okay, I'm going to put you to your word and I'm going to check in with you. But I think at the moment, let's just get this over with and then let's take care of each other.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge is compartmentalizing it, shoving it down, as we kind of say, but then never doing anything with it. That is the challenge. And that's where we need to really, post-traumatic growth comes from processing that at some point in a safe manner, right?
Absolutely.
So we've done a pretty good job over the years, I would say the last decade or so, of bringing awareness to specifically mental health in the fire service and first responder agencies. A lot of awareness, but we need to make some action. Where do you think the first place we need to make some action, specifically in the first responder world regarding mental health?
I've been asked this before, and I think it's a bit of I call it a sandwich method
Mhm.
from up top, from our leadership to our fire academy. Uh, say, starting with the youngsters, like, speak up. I know you're going to be thrown into a house that's got a bunch of vets and they may be old and salty, and this is not part of their environment and the way they grew up, but you're going to be leading before you know it. And we need to set the tone with the kids coming out of the fire academy about speaking up and having a healthy environment. And then from the top down, like you said, like myself, like a captain or a lieutenant or a chief, battalion chief, whoever, stepping forward, like saying, like, we speak up here. I mean, you don't have to do it right in front of everyone, but, grab an officer. If you're not doing well, tell us. We want to help you. We're all in this together. I think that kind of have that trickle down and grow up as well, and just let it just happen throughout the fire service. I think is the best way to approach it.
I like the sandwich idea because it's not just one. It's not just the chief who has to make this culture shift happen.
Yeah.
It's not just the firefighters. It's definitely a group effort for sure. So in your world of dealing with kids all the time, especially teenagers, what benefits or strengths do they bring to the fire service when they get to the age of joining the fire service? What do you see their power compared to what we see right now, maybe the Gen X or millennials?
Sure. We've been fortunate. Just my department, our numbers are really good, and I think overall is the culture is like from day one, whatever their background or interests are, we want to use that. Whatever it may be. Like we had a few young guys, they're plumbers, they're carpenters. Great. We're going to use your ideas, training props, training ideas, things you've seen in houses or, while you're building, stuff like that, have them buy in right away. And just overall their energy, they want to be there. They want to do things. So I think just, we need to lean in that as officers and, show we want you here. We want to keep you here for a long time. And like from day one, you brave enough to sign the papers and go through all the hoopla. Now you're here and we want to keep you.
Yeah, there's always a bit of a challenge, it seems. I don't understand why, but it seems to be a challenge of the different generations trying to work together. It's always a revolving door of that. And there's
Yes.
so many strengths in each generation that we need to embrace versus fighting and saying this is not how we've always done it, right? So,
Yeah,
no, I like that.
exactly. Because we are whatever, put your town in front, fire department.
Mhm.
We're all in here together trying to, reach our goals. Yeah, we're going to disagree. That's fine. That's normal. That's going to happen. But we got to find some common goals and values to, push ourselves forward.
So, pretty much everything you've mentioned so far are factors in building a psychologically safe fire department. Any elements that we haven't discussed that are critical in building a psychologically safe environment? Because I think that's pretty key to firefighter wellness and long-term wellness, as you said before, right?
The only other one I could think of just off the top of my head is obviously the only new generation's social media.
Mm. Okay.
I just tell them, think twice before you post anything.
Mhm.
Because you may be, just posting about yourself, but you have our department on your shirt or on your back. That's all. Then you're posting all of us. They may not realize that. They just say, hey, I look good in this, but, your background isn't the greatest for whatever reason, and that reflects on all of us.
For sure.
I'm not saying we're all angels, but I'm just, I think that's just a part you just have to be more aware of.
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely some very dangerous things that can happen through poor social media management, but also it can be a total powerhouse as well.
Yes.
Can you do you have experiences or examples, and it could be just even thoughts in your mind of how mostly leaders are attempting to build a psychologically safe environment, but actually do more damage than good?
I've seen a few firehouses where the officers are too busy for that. That's their common answer. I have whatever, captain, chief stuff to do. And it kind of just, you deal with that. I've unfortunately seen that a few times. And nothing with the firefighter where dealt with them taking their lives or severe like that, but just, they've had a few questions or concerns or problems, and now they're just kind of left on an island.
Very low respect
I
being.
figured out when I was a firefighter, you do that.
Mhm.
And I think especially being in the volunteer side is retention and culture. Retention culture is just drilled in my head. Um, it's not all hold your hands, kumbaya. It's going to be great. We're going to be yelling and shouting at each other, but that's growth. That's family. How we move on and get better. But I think it's unfortunately seen that, pulling on the collar, like still part of the same department there, buddy. You got,
100%.
yeah. And then those are, those firefighters or probies, rookies, whatever you want to call them, they're going to be in your spot one day, or they're going to be your new officers.
Mhm.
And you're always teaching, like you said, you're always teaching the firefighter behind you, even from day one.
Yep, 100%. So, in saying that, especially in the new junior recruits, what elements do we need to a little refocus and maybe spend a little bit more time on in regards to retention and culture to make sure they fully understand the importance of both of those? Is there areas that we need to spend a little bit more time on?
I think it's always getting ready to explain why. This is a great lesson I learned from my brother. My brother served in the U.S. Navy as an aviator for 32 years. And when I got my first bugle, he was already an officer for a while ago. His name's Brian. I said, Brian, I just became an officer. You've been an officer for a while. I know it's two different worlds, obviously. Any hints, pointers, general stuff, man, he thought about it. It was quiet on the phone for a bit. And he goes, the best thing then is you tell him why. Why are we going in this direction? Why are we having these goals? He goes, anywhere. I go, I said that in the squadron names, I go, the guy cleaning the floor, the mechanic, to my executive officer. They're going to know why. He goes, obviously you're not going to tell him why on the call. That's not the spot to do it at. But one thing I think this generation coming up, they ask why a lot more, which is fine. And we have to have those answers. I think that's the biggest thing is, why are we going in this direction? And, why are we doing it this way? Which is fine. That's what practices are for, and learning. And, it keeps us, not just because I told you so. It's, why are we doing this? And it goes over in your head, these are the goals, and this is the marks we want to hit. So I think it gives them a better lay of the land.
What changes have you seen by asking and allowing that why question to be asked? Any changes that you've seen in your?
I think the firefighters they approach our officers much easier, and just
once
having
again,
that
building
door.
that psychological safety once again, right?
Yeah. It's okay. Hey, why are we doing this drill? And then you might because they're new and like, all right, we've had this kind of call happen, or we've gone to mutual aid here, and this is what kind of happened, and we're trying to reconstruct it and do drills through it, so in case this happens again. But that's fine, asking why, stuff like that. I go, just not when we're about to hop into a building. We're gonna talk about that later.
Yeah, that's a bad time to do that.
Yeah.
Same with compartmentalizing the emotional response, right? It's that now's not the time for that.
Yeah, we will definitely help you, but just not right now.
So looking back at your essay, I'm kind of curious about some of the elements in there of what brought this to be a winner, do you think, for the 2025 Darley National Fallen Firefighters Foundation contest? Like, what elements in there do you think, wow, this really stood out from the other ones? What would be your thoughts in there?
The stats part was the easy, like I said, just the muscle memory from grad school. That was the part. But I think really just sitting down, looking at myself as a first responder, and really putting myself into this. And I've only done volunteer, never done a shift as a call, but I just tried to relate the best I could to those men and women that do those, 24, 48-hour shifts, and just, try to relate the best I could.
I like that. What have you learned about yourself joining the fire service that now you use in your day-to-day work at the schools?
I think especially becoming an officer, the 360. Yeah. Obviously, volunteers a little different. When you get a call, you're just zipping right into the apparatus, and then you do one of these, like, okay, and now you're thinking of who I have, what they're good at, what they may not be good at, where we're going, what we're going to, and then, but practice nights, you get a little more 360-ish of, seeing how things are going with different people and where they're at. And then same with reading the athletes when they come in, good, bad, and different days, just chatting them up while I'm taking care of them, or they're just in there. A lot of them just come in to hang, which is great. They know it's a good environment just to decompress and, and talk about maybe a teacher they don't like or a class, which is fine. They get it out and they move on. So,
right. Yeah.
But I think the 360 is what I've learned biggest from being an officer.
I like that. Do you do a 360 once a shift kind of thing, or once a day, or is this kind of something that you're continually doing a 360?
I think that the 360s definitely happen in my regular job when the kids roll in, and just doing that and just seeing how the flow is going. Our practice nights, I try to do a little more of that as well.
Yeah. Do your firefighters know you're doing that, or is that something that's kind of like under the radar, kind of low key?
They're gonna know now if they want.
Cat's out of the bag now. Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's all right. You just know I'm more accessible. Uh, it's just, yeah, I just start, hey, how you doing? Just the casual conversation like that, and we even start anything formal, and then just roll from there.
Yeah, it's
Whatever
probably
they want
way
to talk
more
about.
effective than having something formal where people know that almost getting interviewed by you. When it becomes natural, you've built that trust. It's just part of your day to day, right? So
Yeah.
probably
I mean, once in a while, I
approach.
have to, pull them out of a group. Just you just have to have the conversation for whatever it is. Doesn't have to be whether it be negative or positive, whatever it is. But sometimes you just got to pull them aside so no one else can hear you,
Mm.
and it happens.
So, Mark, what's one question that you wish I asked you that I haven't asked you yet?
Uh, I I'm gonna go back to your form actually, there, Chief.
Sounds good.
I'm a pretty good baker. I saw that. I see you're a foodie.
Oh yes, 100%.
So yeah, it'll change up the subject a little bit. So I'm a pretty good baker.
Love it. What do you like to bake?
Well, my blondies are my go-to.
Nice.
My department likes my eclair cake. Once a month we have monthly meetings, and then we rotate the officers. We have a group, so each month a different officer does the dinner. So I've done that when it's my turn for dessert.
Like it. Like it.
So yeah. So and
how do you get
then,
an application again?
what?
How do you get an application again to join?
But yeah, let's just another avenue
Love
that instead of just like I said, the identity fusion.
Yeah. I think identity fusion, like if you're incorporating some of your hobbies into the fire service, that's probably a healthy thing as well. And it's also part of building that culture that you talked about, right? I'm sure that, food broken around the table, people love to talk when there's food there and they feel more comfortable for some reason. It sets the stage. So food's always a great thing at events in the fire service for sure.
Yes.
I was a baker before I joined the fire service.
Oh, okay.
I was going for my certification, but never made it because I became a firefighter. But yeah, I still love it. And then kind of post COVID, I wasn't a COVID sourdough guy, but post COVID, I've started doing
Yeah.
sourdough now. So
Yeah.
we pretty much have
And
starter going every day. Loaves of bread, bacon almost every day in the house. Yeah.
yeah, my son has worked in the restaurants while he's high school, now college, and he's a master on the Blackstone. So when he's home from college, dinner time, you're it. So
Blackstone is precious. Yes.
yes,
Love
he's
it.
really good at it.
So what would be one parting message you'd like to leave our firefighters with today regarding, boundaries, leadership, mental health, well-being, something you really think somebody could walk away today and go, okay, I heard Mark. I'm going to start putting this into action.
Yeah, speaking up is not a weakness. That's a strength.
100%.
I know they may have said it in other, mental health aspects, but especially in the firehouse, we're dealing with, the heroism and the bravado for sure. Talking to someone, maybe a partner, therapist outside, but don't keep that in, journal, have a support group outside. If, for some reason, not comfortable talking to the people around you in your house for now, but have that support system in place or build one slowly, whatever it may be. I think that's the biggest thing. But the one message I'd want to pass along.
Yeah, such an important one. But unfortunately, it's one of those ones that's still very, very hard to crack through is to be open and to talk about it, right? And this podcast is kind of here to share those stories so people start hearing people talk about it a little bit more and feel that, maybe this is normal, that I am supposed to talk about it. Talk about my feelings or my thoughts or my actions or whatever, right? And not bottle it up. So yeah, thanks
Yes,
for sharing that.
whatever it is, find that support area to help, to help you mentally and, feel like yourself
Yep.
and not be a shell.
Yep. So what's next for Mark in the world of mental health, leadership, writing? A book coming out anytime soon or anything like that?
No book right now. School, I have my last faculty meeting tomorrow before I can say hello summer.
Nice,
So
beautiful.
I'm
Oh,
kind
amazing.
of in wind down mode right now.
Good.
Gonna go see my parents next week in Florida. So yeah,
Beautiful.
my brain is definitely shutting off for a little bit for now.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, enjoy your summer.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing your story, your wisdom, and your experience as both as an educator and a firefighter. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, and if anyone's out there wants to contact me, I'm willing to talk to them about this or anything else. I'm here for you.
That's my next question. How can people get in contact with you? What's the best way?
Instagram, email, whatever it may be. I'm ready to talk.
That's good. So you're on Instagram, LinkedIn,
Yep.
email. Yeah. Fantastic. All right, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed this great episode 111 with Mark, and sharing a bit about his, 2 lives of being an educator with students and how that kind of overlaps and some of the things that he talks about in the fire service as well, being a captain in the fire service. So until next time, stay well. All right, that's a wrap.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.